Hey guys, welcome back to another video, another chapter of Affliction of the Heart, Volume 3. This time we're gonna read, it's chapter 11 apparently, and we're gonna read, we're gonna read Glorious Expositions last time. I guess, because the last thing on my last chapter was that, apparently, I guess, Warden's parents want to talk about Warden? Anyways, let's just hop right into this glorious exposition. Warren sat down heavily on the bed, having to squeeze slightly to fit in underneath the upper bunk. Staring across at the opposite wall were a large poster of Spitfire and her Wonderbolt suit hung, with the words "Try out for the Wonderbolts today" stenciled along the bottom in glaring yellow. "This was my room," Warren said with a faint smile, looking up to where Kuno was standing in the doorway. "It's very impersonal," Kuno said simply, still in her Pegasus form, peering back and forth between the poster and the beds, literally the only things in the room. "I wasn't allowed to drag much stuff back and forth, really," Warden admitted with a faint sigh. "Not much has changed, really, except that wasn't always Spitfire in the posts," he said, idly pointing a hoof at the poster. "It used to be Velocity." Kuno nodded at that, sliding over to the bed and then pulling herself up onto it with him, stretching out lazily. "Swarm will be fine with their parents, right?" Warden shrugged. "She should be, unless Gale decides to eat her." "You know I blackmailed you here so that you could possibly reconcile with your family, right?" Kuno asked, pursing her lips. "It's not that easy," Warden stated flatly, shaking his head. "Gale did some pretty horrendous shit." "I understand that, Warden," Kuno said gently, shaking her head softly. "But he's your father. Don't you at least owe him a chance?" Warden frowned at that, looking thoughtfully, shrugging. Maybe not, though it's not like he ever did anything for me." "But he's your father," Kuno insisted, frowning deeply. "I wish I had parents in the pony sense, at least." Warden frowned at that, peering at his wife for a long moment. "Changelings don't have parents?" "Not in the classical sense," Kuno admitted, rubbing a hoof through her mane self-consciously. "We're birthed and then raised communally, at least. That's how it happens in the Hive. We don't have a designated parent or any kind." Sad. "That's depressing," Warden admitted. "I agree with Warden." "It keeps us from stealing love from each other constantly," Kuno admitted with a soft sigh. "Well, that sucks, but just because he's my father, I don't owe him anything. He was an unsupportive bastard my entire life, and now that I'm old enough to not need him, I can tell him to go screw himself without any problems for moral," Warden stated bluntly. "He even gave me a guard's name," Warden added with a slow shake of his head. "Do you even know how out of touch you have to be with the world to give your child the wrong name?" "That statement could come back to bite you in the ass," Kuno replied with a faint grin. Warden nodded, then gave a shrug. "I don't even know what Swarm will want to do in life, but if it's only... I don't even know what Swarm will want to do in life, but it's the only name that fits." Kuno nodded, leaning against his side gently. "Can you at least try for me?" Warden bit his bottom lip, chewing roughly for a moment. "Well, for you, I guess I could try." "I know he's, well, an asshole, but family is important," Kuno urged, rubbing her nose against his neck lovingly. "And I'd really like for Swarm to have the closest to a normal family as possible." "Well, there goes that dream too," Warden said with a wave of a hoof. "She has you for a mother." "You say that like it's a bad thing," Kuno protested, thumping his shoulder with a hoof. "Not bad, per se," Warden soothed. "Just, she won't grow up normal, not a chance. Not to mention she's a miniature alicorn." "She's a pegacorn," Kuno corrected, frowning. "An alicorn is royalty. She's just different and not normal," Warden said with a smile, kissing her cheek. "Just like the rest of her family." "So, why are we here?" Kuno asked. "Waiting for my father to leave and go back to work," Warden said with a long sigh. "Sneaky," Kuno complimented. "I thought so too," Warden said with a slightly strained smile. "I have a whole lot to tell my parents, but I don't feel up to talking to Gil right now." Understandable. Damn, no. But that's kind of the entire point of coming here," Kuno protested, frowning. Warden gave a long suffering sigh. "I know, but I just don't want to interact with him at all." Kuno scowled, pushing his shoulder with a hoof. "Come on, quit stalling, let's go," Warden said faintly, rising to his hooves. Fine. Warden pushed open the door to the dimly lit sewing room, peeking around the corner. "Where's Swarm?" Warden asked, blinking, not seeing his daughter or his father. "I gave Gil some bits, and he's out treating his granddaughter to ice cream," Thunderbird explained as she pulled a flight suit through the sewing machine, inspecting the seam closely as she did so. "Ah, that explains it. Well, I can go then," Warden said, waving a hoof airily and turning around. He was met by Kuno's smiling face, though the smile didn't reach her eyes. She slowly shook her head. Warden gave a long sigh, lowering his head and turning back around, slinking into the room and sitting down at one of the counters. "Avoiding your father?" Thunderbird asked curiously. Warden harumphed as Kuno sat next to him and then shook his head, trying to. Kuno soothingly stroked a hoof up and down his good. Wait, what? Kuno soothingly stroked a hoof up and down his good. He needs a strong hoof to lead him. Threadbare paused in her work, looking up over the sewing machine. You know your father loves you, right? Warden stared into his mother's eyes for so long, but before bursting out laughing. Threadbare frowned deeply. Come on, Mom, Warden said, shaking his head slowly. He hates me. Your father, he grew up in a different time. He had a pretty rough and tumble life. By your age, he was already moving up the ranks of the Wonderbolt's ladder. And now look at him, stuck teaching the new guys like some second-rate cripple, Warden said with an airy wave of hoof. Methinks he's not as tough as he makes out to be. Threadbare pursed her lips, sitting down behind the counter, and then flicking the sewing machine off, plunging the room into silence. You don't know why your father teaches you now. Wait, what? You don't know why your father teaches now, do you? Can't say I ever bothered to find out, Warden said with a carefree shrug. This is gonna just be some bullshit little crap, isn't it? Did you know that he stopped flying professionally around about the same time as Storm passed away? Threadbare asked cautiously. Warden shrugged again. Something to do with the training accident? I forget. Most of my memories from that time are consumed with wanting to stab him in the face for what he said. Very interesting relationship you guys got, though. Threadbare gave a long sigh at that, rubbing a hoof through her mane. Your father is a very proud stallion. This conversation is going in circles, Warden said bluntly. Be patient, Kuno hissed, jabbing his ribs with her elbow. Warden winced and then pursed her lips. Fine, do tell me why the old bastard doesn't fly anymore. Well, you know that he injured himself. He turned up at the funeral with a wing brace on, yes? Threadbare asked, walking her son through the events. Warden nodded once. I asked him about it. He told me that there had been an accident at work and probably would never fly to the Wonderbolts again. Never fly for the Wonderbolts again. You still haven't put two and two together, Threadbare asked, exasperated. It's 4, Warden said confidently. Threadbare shook her head, heaving alongside. Gale was with you, you know. With me? Like what, in spirit? Warden asked blinking once. No, with you, Threadbare explained. He was following you the entire way in case you needed help. Well, I needed help, and he wasn't there to provide it, Warden protested, expression darkening. A fat lot of help he was when I couldn't get the medicine. Threadbare shook her head. He watched you try to retrieve it, and then he went after it himself. Warden frowned deeply at that, his ears playing back. He did? Well, shit. This is gonna be so fucking weird now. Threadbare nodded gently. He did, but he got injured in the scuffle and had to retreat, just as you did. I didn't get injured, Warden admitted, looking down at his hooves. I couldn't get that close. Your father is a member of the Wonderbolts, Warden. They don't like to fail any challenge. He was very fast with his wings, too, but one of the Manticore was faster. Threadbare explained delicately. He lost his career for you, Warden, and yes, he did blame you afterwards, especially as he had only just gotten back the diagnosis that he was never going to be able to fly professionally again. Warden frowned deeply at that. One of his hooves lifting to idly toy with the leading edge of his batwing, his ears playing. I never knew. Well, Gale would never tell you himself, Threadbare admitted with a slow shake of her head. It's not perfect. Yes, he's made some mistakes, but you never gave him a second chance, did you? Warden pursed his lips, scratching idly at the floor with a hoof. Not everybody deserves a second chance. Kuno snorted at that, nudging him lightly with her nose. How many second chances have you given me? Well, you didn't do anything, as Warden showed off, trying to argue that Kuno hadn't done anything as bad as his father did. Kuno just shook her head, staring at him. Be the bigger stallion. Quit being a little child. You calling me a child? Warden accused, poking her chest with a hoof. Kuno nodded mutely. That should probably impress you upon the depths of your childishness. Kuno nodded mutely. That should probably impress upon you the depths of your childishness. Warden winced slightly and nodded. Yeah, you're probably right there. Threadbare raised an eyebrow. So, are you going to give him a chance? Warden rubbed a hoof through his mane self-consciously. I suppose I could cut him some slack. Good, Kuno groaned, driving a hoof over his shoulder. Now we just need to tell them all about us, she said with an eerily happy grin. Okay, typo. Warden wiggled his nose at that, gave it an awkward, self-conscious laugh. I think that might be a bit much right now. Just go ahead and do. Oh, but it's gonna be so fun to tell them every little Kuno showed off, peering back over his shoulder at the door as Gale force entered. I thought it said Gale entered with force. I was like, what? Guilforce entered. Swarm was perched between the larger Pegasus' wings, holding onto the leading edge of one with a hoof and stuffing her face with an ice cream cone with the other, pushing her nose into the cone itself to try and lick more ice cream from inside. Guilforce paused in the doorway, looking back and forth between the 3 pointers already in the room. Do I need to leave? No, stay, Thurber say. Wait, where was I? People are yelling in the background, dealing with kids. No, stay, Thurber said, patting the space beside her. Yes, stay, Warden said shortly. The ice cream is stuck at the bottom, Storm protested, appearing into the ice cream cone. Eat it, Warden suggested. It's at the bottom, Storm said with the air of a teacher correcting a very dim student. Eat the cone, Warden said, rolling his eyes. You can eat the cone? It's cardboard, Storm protested, blinking his nose at it. Soggy cardboard. We've never given her cones before, Warden asked, appearing at Kuno. We just give it to her in bowls and tubs, Kuno said with a shrug. Warden sighed, turning back to his face's daughter. Yes, you can eat the cone. It even tastes nice, where it's all crunchy and not soggy. Storm pondered on this for several long seconds before beginning to nibble around the edge of the cone, steadily eating her way towards the bottom. Guilforce calmly made his way over to his wife, sitting down beside her. Storm hung onto his back with a hooked around one of his wings before she slowly slid down his back and landed on her rump, happily eating the ice cream cone the entire time. So, Warden said after a long moment. So, Guilforce responded. How's the, career? Warden asked awkwardly. It's good. The new batch of recruits look like they're shape up well. That's, good, Warden responded, catching his neck with a... Do you, miss doing the shows? Guilforce turned to stare at Thurber for a long moment, his eyes narrowed. Thurber just gave a shrug, turning to pick up torn flights, Warden inspected it closely. More than anything, Guilforce admitted, frowning and rubbing his chin with a hoof. Oh, god damn it. Okay, sometimes a pause, there's a process and everything. Sometimes it was just pause, like, what's going on? I'm sorry that you can't fly with them anymore, Warden said awkwardly. So it's not your fault, but thanks for the thought. Guilforce responded with a flippant wave of hoof. He turned his gaze to Kuno. So, tell me about yourself, Kuno. Who are you? Why are you wearing a collar? And why are you so intimidating, especially given that you weigh about as much as a feather soaking wet in a flight suit? Well, the collar, this thing, Kuno asked, idly lifting a hoof to touch it at the belt. She trod off, clasping a hoof over Warden's muzzle. It's from him. It's from when I first met Warden. He locked me in a room with with a one-way mirror, bars over the window and the bed. Oh, and the collar was to keep me from escaping during meal times. Damn, just the honest truth here. Boo. I'm guessing Kuno wants to have a good freaking connection with the parents here. Dope. Warden's parents were aghast. So I didn't expect her to actually tell the truth. Warden struggled away from Kuno's hoof, giving a nervous laugh. All lies, Kuno's quite the jokester, he said, with a strange smile, nudging her with his elbow. X-Nye on the... Just stop. Why do I believe you? Guilforce asked cautiously. Because it's the truth, Kuno said simply. Though he was perfectly warranted in his safety measures. Of course, I broke his alarm clock and used the spring from it to pick the lock on my collar. Is she gonna transform? I want her to transform. I want her to be in her true form. Okay, because it's the truth, Kuno said simply. Though he was perfectly warranted in his safety measures, of course I broke his alarm clock and used a spring from it to pick the lock on my collar. Resourceful, Guilforce said with an appraising nod, even though his wings had flared just slightly, ready to move should he need to. Warden moved to clasp his hoof over her mouth, but Kuno dodged backwards idly, keeping him at bay with her own hoof. Of course, once I got free, I needed somewhere to stay, so I stayed with him. I fell in love with him, and then Daggertail's thugs came around and broke his wing and hoof, since he wasn't being a good little boy like he promised. Warden hung his head, giving a long sigh. This is just the straight up truth that has been going on with him. They broke your wing and hoof, Guilforce asked, staring, but Daggertail was murdered. He frowned deeply, staring at Kuno for some long minutes. You mean? Kuno nodded slowly. I murdered him. He was actually pretty easy, not nearly as satisfying as I had hoped, though. Shine was much more fun. I had got to toy with him before the end. All the blood had drained from Guilforce's and Thurber's faces, and they seemed painfully aware that Kuno was between them and the exit. But that was while Warden was in the hospital. He ended up there because just a few hours after Shine brutalized him, he drugged himself up and managed to get. Oh, he drugged himself. I forgot about that. He drugged himself up and managed to drag his sorry ass all the way to Cantola to rescue me from the royal guard. Gonna say with a short nod, but that was the bird showed off, her eyes widening. That was you and Warden? Rumors. The rumors. I forgot about them. Your wife keeps up with the news, Kuno said with a smile, staring at Gilforce. Of course, after that, he was in induced coma for a few weeks. I left before he woke up because I'm selfish and heartless like that. Kuno, like, she's being fucking honest. I love it. Kuno trotted off, humming faintly and ordering her thoughts, scratching her chin with a hoof. I came back because I decided I wanted him all to myself. By this point, he was already at the farm in the far north, near the old Crystal Empire. I paid for the farm with money I appropriated over the years in my line of work. It's amazing how many bits you save by not needing to eat regular food. Warden shook his head, holding his face in a hoof. So then we went to see the queen to see if it was possible to us to have a child together, Kuno continued. Don't you mean princess? Gilforce cried. Queen, Kuno corrected with an eerie smile. Warden got into a spot of a bother and was saved by none other than yours truly. We got married on a cloud. There were fireworks and everything. It was quite nice. Gilforce cocked his head to the left. None of this is making sense. The truth really does, Kuno said dryly. Either way, we broke up the day after the wedding, or was it the same day? Kuno turned to peer at Warden, raising an eyebrow. When was it? I don't remember, Warden said with a faint smile, covering his face with his shoulders. Kuno, please stop. Kuno continued doggedly. Well, whatever it was, we broke up because my queen came back, blurted all my secrets, and Warden demanded that I remove the love spell I had on him for the previous 2 years or so. He didn't take that so well, Kuno hummed faintly, rubbing her face curiously. Yeah, sorry, he almost broke bones when he hit me. It was mad. He was mad! Yeah, he was mad. Warden gave a long sigh, shaking his head back and forth in disbelief, face entirely covered by his hooves. But then he fell back in love with me, and we had swarm. Kuno finished brightly, waving a hoof at the filly, who was now attempting to see if the cone would fit over her horn. Gilforce slowly shook his head. How much of that was true? Everything, Kuno said, evenly meeting his gaze unwaveringly. Also, she waved a hoof, and there was a flash of green. When it faded, Kuno, in her natural form, was standing there, staring at them challengingly, though they lost several inches of height in the change. Wait, what? Everything, Kuno said. Okay, let me just scroll down real quick. Okay, Gilforce slowly shook his head. How much of that was true? Everything, Kuno says, evenly meeting his gaze unwaveringly. Also, she waved a hoof, and there was a flash of green. When it faded, Kuno in her natural form was standing there, staring at them challengingly, though she lost several inches of height in the change. I'm a changeling. Warden has a legitimate foe with an earth pony named Greenhoof, so your grandparents twice over. Swarm is part changeling, hence the wings and horn. Your son is totally turned on when I chirp at him, and I can and have turned into a dragon before. Oh, and I'm now legally related to you. Hi, mom. Hi, mom. Hi, dad. What? That's the ending. Boy. Did she just do this to have parents? I feel like that's the only reason she did this. What the fuck? Everything is still fucking true though. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, listening. Don't like you guys too. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
100,000 stories have filled my head as I look for the answers in what